Salutations everyone and welcome to What Mattered, the show where I tell you what mattered in the news this week. People are talking about this Power Rangers reboot that's all gritty and stuff, but the gritty reboot I want to see, Barney and Friends. Could you imagine? He's just like a real dinosaur just like eating a little... and the guy can dream. So in big strides towards freedom and anti-big money corporation news, the FCC plans to regulate the internet like a basic utility such as telephone access, which means the throttling of, highways, of certain ISP providers, all of the ones with all the money, probably won't be able to do that now that the FCC will be able to enforce the internet such as they would a telephone service. So this is by no means the end of the battle. There's probably going to be plenty of other court decisions, and it might, make its way all the way to the big courts in the land, and there's going to be just continual struggle to keep the internet free, to keep it the way that it should be, the way that it's worked, and the way that it keeps people informed and it's fair across the board to all websites and to all users. It's just the only thing that we can hope for to keep the internet. Otherwise, it's just this giant corporation money-making machine, and everyone suffers for it except the people who already have billions of dollars. So, the struggle isn't over, but it is one victory that we surely did need. So I'm sure all of you have heard by now, there was a 14-minute fan-made film of a Power Rangers gritty reboot style, posted to YouTube and Vimeo, and have since been taken down after complaints by Saban, the company that owns the Power Rangers. And while the guy didn't break any rules, I mean, it had like James Vanderbeek and a couple of other known actors out there, and it was very good quality. 14 minutes, longer than most of your other gritty reboot things that you see on YouTube, where some people take something from their childhood, something a little more campy or neutral, and make it darker and grittier, and for a more mature audience, to the people that originally grew up with said material are older now. So that was a thing. It was pretty good, along the same vein as other gritty reboot videos. It wasn't amazing by any stretch. It was different. They had really nice effects and action sequences and interesting ideas, but overall it was very different from the Power Rangers, and Saban, the owners, did not like this. He didn't use any footage from the original show, or really anything that was copyrighted, so he was completely within his rights to do what he wanted with this film. But when a big corporation feels like their brand is being threatened, this is just exactly what's going to happen. So it was taken off video and YouTube, and it's still available on his Facebook page. It had like 10 million views over the 3 days that it was available, which is really good. I'm sure the controversy did help, but this isn't the first time people have thought about a darker, grittier Power Rangers. Many of you might remember when the Cloverfield trailer hit and nobody knew what the film was. Some people were thinking and hoping that it was a Power Rangers movie because someone says the name Jason, and there's a giant monster apparently, and what if it was a darker reboot of Power Rangers? That's not gonna happen with these kids-centered brands. Now, whenever one of these things comes out, you always see comments, man, oh man, I would love to see that. Oh man, I would so pay to see that. Who else wants this to happen really bad? Calm your tits, guys. It's not gonna happen. The world just isn't that cool to you specifically. It was just a good film. Only worth a watch or two, and then we can just move on. It shouldn't have been taken down, but it also shouldn't have been, taken as a threat to a brand, which it wasn't. It was innocent, it was harmless, and people enjoyed it and got people talking about Power Rangers again. And they are supposedly supposed to be getting a movie soon, like a real movie and like somewhat of a reboot. I don't know. No one's read the script, But interesting. And speaking of things getting more mature than they used to, the new Batman game, Arkham Knight, has been given a preliminary M rating, which is very, very different. All the other Arkham games are rated T for teen, and the publisher Rocksteady was surprised at this rating. But from what they've said, it doesn't sound like they're going to change anything, because they think that it would be, it would, degenerate the story, it wouldn't give people the experience that they want them to, and they were surprised that it was M rated, but it doesn't sound like they're going to be making any changes. They still might, if they get any specifics on why it got M ratings, because we don't personally know yet. It's supposed to be a little bit darker than the other Arkham games, with some, surprises in there and like how far it goes, and apparently it's far enough to go into an M rating, which is interesting for me, because I like all of the Batman games, and I love myself another Arkham game. And the fact that this one is rated M definitely actually makes me a little bit more excited, because it will take me to a place that the other previous installations hadn't given us yet. Rocksteady said that they're upset because they realized that because of this rating, certain fans won't be able to get to experience the game, because, parents or, being able to buy the game on their own or what have you. But they don't want to water down the experience. So that's very cool for them. The M rating is definitely not a death sentence to video games like an R rating is for a movie. M-rated games do just fine. I mean, the best-selling video game every year is an M-rated game. In other gaming news, it looks like we're getting another Tomb Raider movie adaptation. Reboot style. No more stupid Angelina Jolie bullshit. This is going to be a younger Lara Croft, probably a la, the reboot of the game that came out a couple years ago. And that's an interesting idea. It sounds like it's getting fast-tracked. It's being penned by the guy who did Your Horses, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the Michael Bay one. He also did Snow White and the Huntsman, and he wrote Divergent, and he's writing the G.I. Joe movie, or he wrote a G.I. Joe movie. It's being produced by the guy who did The Departed, which, might help you feel a little better, even though I feel like The Departed was super duper overrated. Everyone gets shot in the head and shouldn't have won Best Picture that year. But regardless, it sounds like we're getting another Tomb Raider movie, and it's being fast-tracked, which is interesting to hear. They want to get this film out very, very fast, which is interesting because the last movie to get super duper fast-tracked, which never happens in Hollywood, was Divergent. So that's interesting. A movie actually closer to this Tomb Raider game as opposed to the popular PlayStation 2 era Lara Croft would be definitely more interesting, more fitting for a cinematic experience, as well as, a different setting and such. Focusing on a younger Lara Croft, I think, definitely helps the game. We're getting an origin. We're seeing a character being molded into something that we know is going to be fantastic. So interesting. Once again, no good video game movies have ever been made. This one probably won't buck the trend, but hopefully, if they stick to some of the ideas that they have, and it's got a good script and well directed, and they get a good actress for Lara Croft, unlike they did in the last two, this could be good. So we have that to look forward to. And speaking of Tomb Raider, Xbox Games for Gold for March, starting tomorrow, will be on the 360, the new Tomb Raider reboots, the original, not, a definitive edition because this is still old gen, and on the 15th that will switch over to BioShock Infinite. So two pretty big titles from a couple years ago, which is really cool, unless you already have, definitive edition, or you already have BioShock, which I'm sure many of you have. But on the Xbox One, they will be giving away Rayman Legends for free, and to continue the trend of, we technically have two Xbox One games that are keeping IDARB on, which, I mean, come on guys, let's get real here. PlayStation Plus has not announced what they're giving away tomorrow, so as of now recording, there's absolutely no news on what they're giving away for PlayStation Plus for March. But in April, a month from now, Xbox announced that they are doubling the free games as a sort of a celebration. So definitely I will keep an eye on what they have to offer there. Hopefully it's some good stuff in the same vein of the games that they have out this month, if you don't have them already. And free games. Good stuff. In TV news, looks like there's a set plan to have an Arrow and Flash spin-off into one show. Characters from both shows getting their own spin-off, which is not something I think any of us expected. There was, teases of, an Atom spin-off, a Firestorm spin-off, at least a possibility was out there, kind of like how they did the Flash in the Arrow a year ago. They put it out there, so if they wanted to do a spin-off, the pipeline was already built there for, the groundwork was done. And this supposed spin-off is going to be starring Brandon Routh's character, the Atom, went with Miller as Captain Cold. And then you have the Flash's Victor Garber, supposedly coming to this show as well as the Arrow's Katie Lotz, which if you've watched the Arrow is a very interesting idea because of reasons. If you know the show, you know what I'm talking about. So, a spin-off of two TV shows into one when one was already a spin-off of another, and it's characters and there's a villain in there and there's that other thing. Really, really weird. A lot of us were, hoping and expecting for either an Atom spin-off or a Firestorm spin-off, and now it looks like we might be getting both into one, but also Captain Cold and the Canary are there, so that's just really weird. I don't know what they're planning to do, how they're planning to do this, but we've seen how great they can make TV shows with the Arrow and the Flash, and it's the same people behind both shows that are supposedly going to be doing this dual spin-off, so very, very interesting to see what they're going to be doing with this, if it happens at all, or if they end up doing a different spin-off altogether, because those possibilities are still pretty high. And in movie news, we're getting a Blade Runner 2. It's one of those movies that people have talked about, from a sequel to a movie made a long time ago, originally, and this one's actually happening. Harrison Ford is back on. It looks like Ridley Scott is not going to be back to direct. They have the guy who directed Prisoners in negotiating to direct, and the co-writer of the original Blade Runner movie will be writing this one, and shooting is set to start in summer of next year. So, very interesting. This is one of those sequels that people have been wondering about and speculating about, and it seems like it might happen. And now it's going to happen. Harrison Ford has wanted to do a Blade Runner 2 for quite some time, as well as another Indiana Jones movie, go figure, after the last one. But a lot of people are excited about this because Blade Runner is one of those cult classics. I myself have seen it, and it's one of those films where people are really, really adamant on if you see the original or the director's cut, because one's better than the other. I think it's the director's cut, the one that's supposed to be better. I'm pretty sure I watched the one that was supposed to be the better version, or maybe I didn't. I don't remember, but I actually didn't really like the first Blade Runner, so, sorry, I didn't. With a sequel, it'll probably, be in the same vein, co-written by the same dude, and that probably won't be a bad thing because it still has Harrison Ford, and people really, really liked Blade Runner. It also had a PC game that was very good, and I mean, it's got its own style, it's got its own future noir, robot, AI stuff, storylines going on, and it's got Harrison Ford returning to a role decades later, which is just a thing that he does. So, interesting and really exciting for those Blade Runner fans out there. Any Hootie and the Blowfish, that is what mattered this week. Hope you all enjoyed. If you'd like to know what matters in the future, one of these comes out every single Saturday, so you can hit some buttons down below. Take your pick. They're all good. Except for that one. I don't like that one. You can click it if you want. I'll see you guys later.